Should felons be able to vote? It's so...
Yes.
Depends on the felony.
Why? Why does it depend on the felony?
If voting was like more of a privilege, maybe not, but like it doesn't feel like much of a privilege now. It's, you know, like you see like these, you occasionally get this like tossed around, this idea that like you should earn your right to be like a full citizen of your country, and that should require some degree of like either involvement or sacrifice on your part. But I feel like right now everyone's just kind of already gifted that right. Is it really that big of a punishment to be removed from that? So I kind of almost wonder, like, is that really doing anything? Do the felons really care that they no longer can vote?
I don't think any of them really do, but I still don't think we should take it away. Like if he's served his time, he's paid for his crime supposedly, then why can he not vote now? Like I can see maybe taking his, you know, if he's a violent criminal, if you know that's 2-Bit Malone over there, and he's been in jail twice, both for armed robbery with a revolver. Maybe we shouldn't be letting him buy any more revolvers because that's what he does. But no reason to kick him out of the voting booth, really. I mean, 2-Bit Malone knows a good candidate when he sees one. He's a smart guy.
So do you want people to be able to vote from prison?
Yeah, sure. Why not? No, not while you're in prison. That's the kicker. You'd have to pay to put the machines in there, and they'd be sneaking drugs in the machines. It'd be a whole thing. Plus, they haven't served their time. They're serving their time. No reason to be voting from prison.
Okay,
I'm
well, that's
trying
more
to find
reasonable.
some stats. Shit. They keep pulling out the black thing. Apparently 35% of adult black people in Florida have a felony conviction.
That seems like it is way too high to be reasonable. 35%.
I've heard that.
You're right.
I've heard a
is
similar
unreasonable.
stat for DC, by the way. Like 1/3 of the black population. It's 14% of the total population in Florida has a felony conviction.
You're gonna immediately, when you see something like that, get like arguments of like institutionalized racism are gonna pop up right there, right? If you're saying like if you take a minority group and 35% of them are unable to vote, even if it's not supposedly related to that race, then you're gonna start seeing like institutional racism like pop up for that, right? So in some sense, that being an argument almost to like do away with removing felony convicted individuals from being unable to vote.
I hear where you're going, and that makes sense. I have no idea if it's institutional racism or if there's some sort of socioeconomic issue that's causing more people, like it's causing more black people to commit crimes. You know, and I don't know what the scoop is, but there's an argument.
What's forcing these blacks to do crime? We've got to put our finger on it. Something is forcing them. Come on.
There's an argument to be made that says, I'm a little worried about ex-felons. If felons are bad people, and at least they were at one point, then do we want them to be a significant voting bloc in America's most important voting state?
It's just they need a different line for it. Like if you are a felon insofar as like when you were 19, you peed outside when you were drunk too close to a school zone or something. Like in that case, it's like, all right, you should be able to vote. If you were a dangerous like gangbuster, just fucking around with cocaine, selling it to kids, and you spend 2 years in prison or whatever, and then you get out 20 years, whatever. Yeah, you probably aren't the best person to be setting a direction or a pace for where the country should be going.
We don't have enough voters as it is. We shouldn't be turning people away because at one time they did some bad stuff.
I can tell you this. If felons could vote in Florida, I think they would vote Democrat and Gore would be president. Not anymore, but he would.
Or there'd be another recount.
One
more.
They won by like
more,
400
sure.
votes or 500 votes, if I recall correctly. I have no doubt that if 35% or no 14% of the population had voting rights, that they would have picked up that couple hundred votes. It changed American history.
You'd have to factor in like you'd have to find some statistic as to what percentage of those people would have voted, you know what I mean? And then you have to further dissect it down and figure out which percentage, when it's a very high percentage, would have voted for Gore. So let's say like 90% of them would have voted for Gore, but then only like 12% of that 90% would have voted at all. Yeah, it doesn't take much though when you're only 400 or 500. It matters about would it matter about the county though? Like was it Dade County where that thing was going on where it mattered?
But they don't just do it by count. Like it's the percentage of votes by state. You know, I know they're collected by county, but they're accumulated at the state level.
Yeah, but I'm wondering.
It
Yeah,
wouldn't
you're
have been close. I think if 14%, if you added 14% of the population of Florida, and I don't even. All right, I'll quickly Google population of Florida.
Anybody want to take a guess?
It's got
I
to
have
be
no
like
idea.
20 million people in Florida.
14 million.
Wow, Taylor, very good.
Is it?
Well, 19.89 million.
Oh,
Yeah,
real close.
yeah, real close. And
Gold star.
at the time, it was probably a little lower. It was 17 million. But you do 14% of 17 million, and you get some number that only Filthy knows right now. And and
Just move the decimal one and add.
and then
50%.
add about half, right? So it's going to be roughly 25% or 250,000 people. Is that right? 14%.
I sure didn't do it. I'm
Oh.
sure it would be very easy to do. But
Something like 250,000 people. It's not very hard to get 500 votes from that population, and they would have gone towards Gore, and he would have won. And
I don't.
but so anyway, what I'm saying is, in that case, I kind of think it would have been good. But the whole argument
Would you
is,
want a presidency to be changed based on the impact of felons?
I'm scared. Not sure.
If it went in the direction that was against you, like you're obviously okay with it because you really
Yeah,
don't
you're like for the
Bush
better
and
good.
You want
Although,
Gore
to
in
be-
there. Like if it were to switch the other way, and the
Right.
shoe were on the other foot, and
Mhm.
that Obama didn't make it in office because of the inclusion of felons, how would you feel about that? Like that would be, and people would freak the fuck out if that were the case.
Well, to be fair, how many elections have been decided in the last? I don't even pick the history of the U.S. How many elections have been decided by a vote of like 400? Like it's got to
Oh.
be
17. I don't know. I made that up.
Thank you,
Yeah, I
Cliff.
realize.
Cliff.
There's only been a couple that are real close, like
Right,
that
so
I
probably,
can think
probably
of.
most of the time, I wonder if it even matters. Is what I'm getting at. Like if felons could vote or not. Does it really most of the time have an impact on the election whatsoever?
They should be allowed
And
to
if it
vote,
doesn't have
but
an
not from
impact
prison.
ever, then what's the point in including it? And if the only time that it could be impactful is that it completely changes and jeopardizes the meaningfulness of the votes of non-felons, then it doesn't seem like that. Like I'm not sold either way, but it just doesn't
me
seem
neither.
like.
I'm kind of with
voting-
Kyle. I feel like if they've done their time, maybe I would even say not on probation anymore, right?
Yeah, I would.
If they're free and clear and they paid their debt to society, and that happens either because they have a lengthy jail term or they were rehabilitated in jail or whatever. If they're out of probation, maybe it's time to give them the rest of the rights of freedom.
I
and
think so.
such.
But then I also think that voting should be compulsory. I feel like either compulsory or you should
Then
basically
I should get a goddamn abstain option on my voting ballot because
Well,
like
Here's what I actually do. Like give everybody give everybody something back on their return or on their tax return if you vote or something. Like pay us to vote. Everyone should either have to vote. You need more people voting. Everyone should have to vote.
I hate both of these ideas.
You can abstain. You can abstain.
Yeah, a sticker
sure.
isn't enough. I need some meat behind getting me to vote because I just like an election like this. I'm not going to go out and vote because I don't feel pulled in any direction, like at all.
I hear you. They're still campaigning, but I don't think voting should be compulsory. I don't think many things should be compulsory. I don't like my federal government telling me I need to do this or that. They can fuck off. And I don't think we should pay people to vote either.
I think it should be compulsory. We should.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm
Everyone
a-
should have to vote.
No, you're going to
It
get a
should be
lot
a
of
big
idiots.
deal. Like I'm not saying line them up out front of the courthouse with guns to their back or anything like that. Like that don't get me wrong.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying it one way or another. You should click a button. You should check a box. You should do something. And maybe the polling has to be done differently so you don't have to be very inconvenienced by it. It needs to be easier to do. I'm not suggesting that everyone go use the current system because the current system's flawed anyway. But one way or another, they make American Idol do this shit over text messaging. They handle that just fine.
I'm in the don't tread on me camp. I don't know what the penalty in your system would be. You probably haven't thought it through either. But keep your jackbooted thugs out of my fucking driveway because I forgot
death.
to vote.
No, it's death. It's death
Okay,
if you
well
don't vote.
now you're winning me over.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel
Also,
like
this is where the head ammo comes back. It's death by jaw amble, right?
I feel like if we're all gonna be, under a federal government, then we should all have a voice in what that federal government's made up of. Otherwise, shut up. And I'm certainly not gonna vote under the current system. Like that's a real headache, right? I got to go down to that.
It's not
you
a big
really
deal.
want all of these
Wait in that
18,
line of
19,
miscreants.
20-year-olds voting. Do you want a huge swath of that segment of the population going to the polls?
Well, we're changing
I
the
don't want
voting
me going to the
requirements.
polls.
Like the voting age is also going to be raised to a significant amount, and a lot of people are going to be excluded from this compulsory voting.
This is getting real.
Haven't you been reading my
fascist.
manifesto?
And also, the paying part about voting, I saw Woody start to wince a little bit when you said that. I'm just imagining maybe they could bid, like the Republicans bid a little bit more on this like area, and then the Democrats could outbid them and just like,
it's
we're
like
gonna pay
you
this
have-
whole apartment block to come vote for us. Like, I don't know,
You know,
man.
all right, so the government takes care of you if you have a few kids, and it kind of promotes you having more kids, supposedly, but really it's just, pandering to a certain voting block. But in the same way, we're gonna take care of you if you vote. That's all.
I would vote more if they got rid of all the politics stuff and instead of debates, they just had like a Fear Factor style competition.
So you want to vote your party leader in. You want to get the Fear Factor party started and affect change.
I can't wait to see that feeble old Bernie unable to finish his cow scrotum full of larvae, on stage, and Trump
oh,
licking
please.
his fingers.
That's not even how it would go down. Like, Steve-O would be a third party candidate. Just like,
He'd be the vice president. He'd be the pinch hitter.
He's looking over at Bernie Sanders like, you gonna eat those cow scrotums? Just bringing it on.
I feel like everybody knew that they were going to have to vote. You'd break up the whole two-party system as well. You'd be able to have a third party that was functional, a fourth party even. And if you ever did that,
there is some argument to say that the people right now who are bothering to go vote are the people who are at least marginally interested in it, right? Who have some desire to have an outcome happen here. If everyone is obligated to vote and there's penalties for not doing that, you're gonna get people who are showing up only to vote because they have to. In which case, do we really want them deciding who's going to be running things?
The other thing is this: I want to add to
you
what Filthy
also aren't
said.
reading my manifesto. There's an intelligence exam that goes along with this.
I want to add to what Filthy said, which was like, right now the people that vote are self-selected, so they have kind of an interest in it. They go out and they're at least marginally educated on the topics, etc. If you get people who have no interest, they're going to pick leaders oftentimes based on how handsome they are or how pretty they are. I know in India, it's very tough to win an election if you don't have fair skin. I was like, oh, it's very important that you're fair in India. I'm like, oh, that's an honorable trait. No. They mean light-skinned.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like two groups of people. There's I think maybe it's the Southern Indians who are more darker skinned. But there's a big difference. Like it looks like a different race even if you're
I hear where you're coming from. Yeah. And beauty is a big deal in Indian elections. I'm going from something like 5-6 years ago.
Oh, I mean,
there be some ugly person in there right now to prove me wrong.
I feel like you're, what's the word?
Halo effect, Woody.
No, you're an unofficial Indian. Like you've got your Indian card from your years of working with those people. I feel like you're. No, you have like what would black people give you? Like a hood card?
Pass. Yeah,
hood pass. Like what would an Indian person give you? A quick 7-Eleven pass or something like that?
Pass, I guess.
Remember?
We call it a Slurpee.
Yeah, I've got my. If people are new to the show, or maybe Filthy doesn't know, I worked with almost an all Indian team for about a decade at Cisco, and it just.
You had an arranged marriage.
I would eat lunch with my Indian coworkers and stuff like 5 days a week, pretty much. And I didn't have an arranged marriage, but almost everyone I worked with had arranged marriages. And it's funny, none of them thought they were arranged marriages. I'm like, do you have an arranged marriage? No. My whole family picked her. It wasn't arranged. I interviewed her beforehand. That's just not arranged. I got to choose my wife. I don't know, how long did you know her? Well, I mean, it was like a 2-day process to choose her, and then the engagement was like weeks long. They over Christmas break, they'd come back. Like they weren't even planning on getting married. They just thought they were visiting their parents, and then they come back not with a wife, of course, because she can't get in the country yet. But they're married, and then like 6 or 9 months later, she comes in tow.
Yeah, that just sounds awful.
That does sound. Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get so progressive that there will be like arranged gay marriage, and they're really pushing you into it, and like you're not even gay? Like, we are trying to diversify this family, and you will do this for us. Like,